You're listening to Anthony on the Virus, Sirius XM.
I gotta also ask for the boat. What happened with your boat?
Oh, yeah.
It got stuck in the mud.
This new Black Crowes album.
It was my first day. Yes. It was my first day in the
Stuck in the mud.
I just bought it, and I spent one day on it with some guy who showed me the specifics of the boat. But it's this big fucking boat with 2 engines, and it's really complicated to drive. And I took my girls out on it, and as we were pulling out of the marina, my daughter was like, "How do you know how to do this?"
Oh, shit.
And I was like, "It's not that big a deal." Like, I was defensive with my 10-year-old. It's not that big a deal. I could do this. And we went around Manhattan, and I got in all this shit I had no qualifications
That's
to deal
a crazy waterway. What do they call that fucking
It's an estuary.
Hell's
Gate.
They should call it Watergate.
Where the rivers kind of split.
the Long Island Sound collides with the Harlem River.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
It gets a little dicey over there.
Really
Don't
bad.
say the Harlem River around Anthony today.
No.
I'm all right.
A little sensitive.
It's been a renaissance up there.
Don't say Muddy
One
River.
moment when we were in that cauldron and we just smashed, like the boat felt like it was coming apart, and my 7-year-old screamed, and her sister held her eyes, like closing them. It was really stressful.
Were you
But
panicking?
Then we get no. I mean, it's nervy, but
it was making that smack sound on the water. The bow goes like, bam!
And are you thinking, I just want somebody who knows how to do this here right now with me?
yeah. And so now we got through it, and we're really happy. And I've got frozen burritos and macaroni and cheese. So we're gonna pull over, throw the anchor, and we're gonna make lunch. So I find this little cove, this sweet little cove.
Nice.
And
in Harlem?
there's people in a park next to it, and it's just a nice place. So I pull in there, and the boat just stops moving all of a sudden. And everything starts beeping because the boat is the boat is cooled by water that it's sitting in. So now it's just sucking mud up. 2-hour-old engines are now packed with mud. And I just shut everything off because I know everything's overheating.
Oh man!
And my daughters go, "What's going on?" And I turned to them and I said, "You need not to ask me any questions for a little while."
Oh shit! Yeah.
And the park ranger calls over to me from the shore, and he says, "You ain't going anywhere. It's low tide. You're going to be stuck there for a long time." And I'm like, no, it's all right. I'm trying not to let my daughters hear this. And I call the Coast Guard or whatever, the Channel 16. I'm like, anybody can tow me out of here. And these cops show up on the boat. And they're like 50 yards away, and they're not going to come anywhere near me.
No.
And they said, yeah, you're going to have to wait till
You're
high tide.
infectious.
Yeah, it's around 1 o'clock, and I'm on the radio with the cops, and they go, you're going to have to wait till high tide. And I said, when's that? And they said, maybe midnight tonight.
Oh.
Both my daughters start crying. Did
you stay the whole time, or did you get out?
You can't. There was no way to get out because in a few minutes Zodiac. We were surrounded by mud, and it was like quicksand.
Were you embarrassed?
Fucking
One of the best questions I've ever heard. Quick, salient, succinct. Oh man,
I was really embarrassed.
So you were pretty much just like no more water. Your boat is sitting in mud.
Yeah.
In mud.
Really
and
gross.
You're waiting for the tide to come back in. Were you afraid that it was just going to be stuck in the mud and
I was afraid
not
of that.
come up?
I was afraid. My daughter was like, what if we like keel over? What if we start tipping over? I'm like, that can't happen. And in my head, I'm like, that could totally happen. And the cops said they would go get us food because we couldn't cook any of the food now because it needs a generator to run the fucking oven.
How would they get it to you?
Well, that was a big deal because they went and got us food. The cops. Then they come back, and now there's a huge expanse of mud between us and them.
The food.
And they go, we don't know how you're going to get this. They put it in a garbage bag, and I start throwing a line to them, but it's not making it.
Of course
all these
not.
people on the shore, everybody knows who I am now.
Oh, no.
So there's people in the park and the shore who are just on a rail just watching me. And I'm throwing this, I've tied a pot to the rope. and I throw it, and it gets about halfway there, and I'm pull it back, and I'm covered in mud. Because every time the rope comes back, it's totally covered in mud, and I have to get the mud off so it's not heavy. Every time I go to throw it, all the people on the side, half of them are going, "We're pulling for you, Louie. You can do it." And then when I miss, they go, "Oh man, that dude sucks."
It's like playing left field for the Yankees.
Yeah, it's totally the Yankee Stadium crowd. People booed. People booed.
Wow.
And I couldn't get it, so finally the cops pulled over a guy who was fishing, and they used his rod to throw me a line.
Cast a line.
They cast a weight.
So
I tied it to a rope.
Oh, shit.
They pulled, and then I had to pull dinner onto the boat. I was so soaked in mud and sweat. Totally.
Then it was chicken mole after that.
That's right. Had your kids calmed down by that point?
They were great. My kids were amazing. We waited and waited. Once in a while, like it started raining a little bit, some kid go, "Hey, Louis, CK, it's raining out now." Those guys at the marina where I keep the boat, they're really cool guys, and they sent some young guy, and in a boat, and they just dropped him in the water, and he swam to us.
Jesus.
Crazy kid. And he came on board with me and helped me get it out. Once the water came up, we used the bow thruster to shove the boat
you got a
around.
little bow thruster on there.
Were you feeling it rise as the water's coming? Like, oh, God.
No, the boat wasn't moving because the water was coming up and the boat was just sitting there. So that's why we used the bow thrusters or above
Shake
the
it
mud.
loose. Wow.
So we shook the boat around. And at one point, the tide was starting to go down again, and the guy that was with me said, "It's your call, but we could put it in. We could turn the engines on and put it in reverse and try to get out of the world."
What'd you do?
Yeah, it was like Apollo 13 because everything had been off for a long time, and now we're like, he says, we have 10 seconds of battery. It was all this stuff.
Oh,
yes.
So we fired up and just put it in reverse, and mud just. It was crazy.
We don't have enough lens to get Louis out of the mud.
Now, Lou, didn't you have a depth gauge indicator where that would go like meh when you get shallow water?
Yeah. The mud happens so suddenly. You have to know the waters, and you need to look at your charts.
Right.
You can't just look at the depth finder.
And the tributaries. You have to know them as well.
The depth finder tells you what the depth is directly
under your boat, right?
Yeah.
So you can
tell
just,
you what's coming.
You'll just go up on it, and then it'll.
If he knew it was coming, he wouldn't be near Harlem. You were just going out there trying to catch Walter, and you and Billy hit the rock on Golden Pond. When fucking Katharine Hepburn comes out with her fucking head boogieing.
Oh my God! Wow, that is fucked up, Louie.
It was a funny. Well, my girls went through this whole thing with me. As we came into we went down the Hudson River to go home at midnight. And I said to my daughter, we have to come back out on the boat so you can have a positive experience.
Right.
And she said, we just did have a positive experience.
Plus, they got to stay up late.
Yeah. Well, they don't like staying up late. They're 10 and 7.
Yeah.
They just want to go to sleep.
Is there downstairs on the
I
boat?
got a 10-year-old. He's like stares at the TV all night.
Does he?
Yeah,
Well,
he's a boy. I can't stop doing Colin.
Yeah.
Stares at the TV all night.
Well,
You're listening to Anthony.
Yeah, the name of the boat was Dogs.
Dogs.
With a G or with an S or a Z?
What?
With an S or a Z?
No, fuck you. You said G first.
Yeah, I did, but I
How many
D-A-W-G-Z.
Dogs.
How many foot?
34 feet.
34.
Yeah,
That's a big nut.
I got pretty good idea.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So why dogs?
Because somebody called me and said they're shipping it right now, and someone's standing there with a spray can.
You got to come up with a name.
Come up with a name now. And I was busy, and I said, Dogs.
Oh, wow.
That's it. And I forgot I did it, and when I went to take the boat out of Lindenhurst, I'm like, oh, what did I say that?
Yeah, I know. A better name would have been, I'm a non-captain cunt. So what do? You pick it up on a trailer hitch, or they ship it to where you want it? I don't know. I don't know how it works.
It was being kept in,
it's a little big for a...
It was being kept in Jersey City.
To back down a fucking slip. Yeah. A fucking...
Yeah, you don't launch that.
At the ramp. Son. You take it down to the local boat ramp at Ashroken and dump it out.
Let's catch some sunnies.
Yeah, some sunnies.
The bluegills are all over the place. Who knows where the bass are, right, kid?
snappers.
Yeah, with your
Let's go get
girlfriend in
some
cut-off
snappies.
shorts pretending to help while you're launching it.
You're cranking that.
I don't know what. Just I'll do it.
Yeah. Wow, that's fucking. That's a pretty big size boat for your first boat.
Yeah, I mean, I've had smaller boats.
Oh, you
like
have?
little motorboats and stuff.
Yeah.
I never had a thing like that.
2 engines, you got to fucking
No,
work
it's got
those,
a spinning. It's got radar.
Right. That spinny thing is cool as fuck.
Everything but a mud detector.
Everything but a competent user. In the hands of an asshole, a total worthless piece of fiberglass.
It was in the Post, I think. It was funny. That's
it was. We saw the pictures, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
It's a better story, though. It's like, I had a great trip around Manhattan. Who cares? I got stuck in the mud. That's
exactly
a great story, man.
Beach,
I'm really
fans on the fence like that.
Yelling at you.
That's right.
Starting to rain now. You should have bought a
Like a
robot
little
ant.
kid, like a little Puerto Rican kid. Hey, Louis C.K. He didn't know, like somebody told him who that was. It's starting to rain.
Thanks.
You should rename the boat to Follies.
Well, the only thing that made me anxious about it being in the paper was that I don't want people knowing that I have a fucking.
That's true.
boat. But
Yeah.
it said,
don't anymore.
Louis C.K.
It's on Bloomfield Avenue in Clifton.
And all these people online commented and said, "That's not a yacht."
Not a yacht.
And I was like, "Oh, perfect."
A pleasure craft,
Yes.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a disappointment on Louis C.K.'s boat.
Boston Whaler.
Lefty thought that he was going to meet Sam Traficante, but one way to go for a fucking for Donnie Brasco joke. Hey, so what?
I don't even think you got there yet.
Jimmy.
Dude, I got my yacht. You blow it up. You put the wooden seat on. You go fishing.
Did you take Bob Kelly on the boat?
Boom.
I took Bob Kelly.
Bob talked about it. You know
man.
what, dude? Just me and Louie on a boat, dude. Looking at this. What do you think? Just two professionals talking it over. Shithead, you were probably the only one available.
Did you bottom out that time, too, at 1,000 feet of water?
Yeah, you were the fucking 18th person he called.
Bobby, these for you.
How was the trip with Bob Kelly?
I went to the Comedy Cellar and he was there, and I said, "Let's go
In
to
a
the
boat?
Nice.
Oh, we were hoping that you weren't on your boat, and all of a sudden you ran over him, and the propeller hit his back, and he popped up.
Manatee. He's a man.
He's got the swirly fucking scar on his back.
Yeah. Hey, dude, it's me.
Kind eyes.
I went out on it one night. I took Chris Rock and my manager out on it one night. Chris didn't want to go, and he came anyway. And we went out to the Statue of Liberty, and there was this thing floating in the water. Chris saw it. He said, "What is that?" And it was this big thing, and it was dark. It was night. It was like 1 a.m. It looked like a raft from a ship, like a big round raft. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And I yelled over, "Hey, is anyone in that boat?" And it didn't have any lights or anything. And then we noticed that it was coming towards us, like kind of with some speed. And Chris goes, "Get the fuck away from that thing." Like it was creepy. I backed away from it and I put a light on it, and it looked like a giant manhole cover sticking out of the river. This was the weirdest night of fucking ever. And it's right by the
Nautical mystery.
Yeah, right by the Statue of Liberty. It's like, I don't know, 20 feet across, and it's moving. It's propelling through water.
Are you sure it was moving, or it didn't just
It
look like
it was leaving a wake.
Wow.
So
Submarine.
I call up
Well, if the river.
Channel 16. I go, "Is anyone monitoring this channel?" There's something, because the Staten Island ferry was very close to there, and I thought it could easily sink any ferry. I would have sunk if I had hit it.
Yeah.
Really? Had you backed away from it by the time you called in?
Yeah. And so I called in, and then this woman came on. This is New York Harbor Coast Guard. Give me your home number. I mean, your phone number if you have a phone. So I give her my number, and this guy calls, and he says, "What are you seeing?" And I describe it, and he goes, "Describe it as well as you can." And my manager, I said, "What does that look like?" He goes, "I'm really sorry, but it looks like a submarine." It looks like the top of like the hatch of a submarine. So I go, "I don't want to cause a problem, but it looks like the hatch of a submarine." And it's headed towards Lower Manhattan. Like that's what I'm seeing, and I'm sure it's not that. But my main concern is it's not lit, and it could cream anything that hits. It's going down. And the guy goes, "All right, well, I'll call a boat and send them to you." So he hangs up, and like 20 minutes later, there's nobody there. And I call him back, and we have the light on it, and I have this weird feeling like, is it going to shoot at us? Like, what is this thing? Like, we were really freaking out.
Fucking starts coming at you.
Yes. Chris Rock fell asleep.
You're
you
white
wearing
people
life
shit.
vests?
That's white people
No.
shit.
You don't wear life vests
No.
on your boat?
Oh,
No, I don't usually. The
You
kids do.
Observe water safety.
what are you,
Yeah.
fucking Quint? Never put on a life jacket again.
Take a bat to the radio.
Submarine in the water. Our submarine.
So anyway, I called back, and they're not sending anybody. And at one point I got crazy, and I was like, I said, what do you do if you are the Coast Guard? And I am saying to you now, there's a submarine attacking Lower Manhattan.
This is
I'm
like
saying it.
This is like Jimmy's story with the bus, only on the water.
Yes.
And they're like, we're trying to get park police over here. I'm like, send a fucking helicopter.
We know about it, Mr. CK. How do you know my name? How do you know my name?
Oh, wow.
And he
Get
kept
away
asking
from
me
it.
to hover. We kept hovering around it and stuff. And then finally this big police boat comes and shines like a massive light on it. And then he hails me on the radio. Hey, Captain, are you the one who reported this? Yeah. And he goes, it's a mooring ball. It's been there since 1965. Just a fucking... And I go, I'm really sorry I wasted your time.
You didn't know? You've never seen a bunch of moorings dancing.
No.
I know. That was delicious. Well, that's all right. You thought it was Sean Connery defecting. How are you supposed to know?
Mooring ball. Big iron fucking floating.
It's on a chain.
Yeah, I guess people tie up to it.
Yeah, and I'm like, what
ships.
if you don't see it? And everybody, the guy most people navigating those waters know what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
That's why.
It's probably marked on a chart that there's a mooring ball there.
Well, when you were off to the side getting away from, because you initially said it was coming towards you.
Yeah.
Leaving away.
It looks like it was going towards me because it's on a chain to the bottom.
Yeah.
So when the current takes it looks like it's moving. It's not just drifting or bobbing.
I was going to say, it must have, the river moving.
I have no business being on the water because, because it looks like it's moving in one direction to me because I'm fucking moving. So it's making like a circle. And I keep moving around it, and I'm going, holy shit!
Where the fuck are we?
Towards...
Jeez, we're really moving far away.
There's a giant thing coming out of the water. That's the Statue of Liberty, you idiot.
There's like a floating sea from another planet. That's Manhattan. That's New York City.
It's Atlantis!
I'm sorry.
I found Atlantis! I said that I thought Anthony would have said it.
Sunk if you hit that, though? That would have killed you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have hit it if I hadn't stopped at the Statue of Liberty to show it off to Chris and them.
Well, why don't they have a light on a mooring ball? It seems
because
like...
everybody, and that's actually out in the open New York Harbor, I'm the only idiot in the whole New York Harbor. I'm the only asshole. It has some tape on it, some reflective tape. They said it, But yeah, they don't expect
submarines put reflective tape on their
They like
hatches.
to be seen at night.
I'm sure if you
don't trip when you're coming off stage on the submarine. We'll put some electrical tape down so you can see it when you're coming off on the steps.
Tape down the cable.
I'm sure if you looked at where you were and looked at a chart, it would probably be there.
Probably.
Mooring ball.
It's an old mooring ball
625.
And if a big tanker wants to sit there, it hooks
then they just, instead of dropping an anchor.
Is that because it's this way it prevents it from going to the shallower water to get close? It can do it in the deep water.
Yeah, it's simpler. Mooring balls are so you don't have to throw an anchor down.
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass.
Hook up to it and you're there.
How heavy is a fucking mooring ball that it can keep a ship in place? What's it latched into the water with?
A safety pin.
What? How could it be that heavy and float?
Well, like a ship, like an aircraft carrier is pretty heavy.
It's a big hollow ball.
It has buoyancy.
Full of air. And at the bottom, it's a giant fucking
It's really
anchor
hard to push air down to the underwater.
Yeah, that's very hard.
Yeah. Air is difficult.
Yeah,
that's a great fucking story.
That is fantastic.
2 horrible boat stories.
And you stayed there. You stayed there.
Like an hour.
Waiting.
Look at it, man.
To find out was it for safety purposes for other people, or to find out what it was?
No, I was concerned about somebody wrecking into it. I didn't want to be doing it. I wanted to go home, but
you probably thought it was terrorism.
You're the boat shit they give you to read.
Yeah,
you're responsible for everybody out there.
Yeah. Were you like running through a fantasy in your head of Louis C.K. Fucking terrorists thwarted by comic Louis C.K.
You know what's great? All Anthony said was Louis C.K. and we all burst out laughing. We all knew the text.
He's just daydreaming like,
yes, everybody's going to know now that I'm really a captain.
Homeland Security.
But instead, the headline reads, in quotes, comic arrested for pranking police department.
Comic, local comic.
Yeah, you thought that there was going to be good, cool. You saw something and you said something. Good job.
That's it.
Local comic known for playing Grandpa's comedy club in Yonkers.
Comes across a piece of hardware that's been there since the World's Fair.
Yes. Yes, call the police. We're being attacked by a giant bowling ball. It's a big circle and it's just hanging out there for 51 years.
That's fantastic.
Finally, somebody caught it.
God, that's fucking great, man.
Sirius XM, The Virus. You're listening to Anthony.